to start with, let's talk about right now, because right now you're kind of like the after picture.
Yeah.
You're kind of the, the place a lot of people would really like to be. And can you tell us a little bit about what things are like for you right now? What the premiere was like? What this, culmination of so many years of work has been like, and just how you're feeling these days.
It's just everything's starting to speed up very quickly, but it's still the same, if that makes any sense. So all these things seem to be happening, but I'm still in my apartment by myself most of the day.
So I was going to say, do you feel different in some way?
Do I feel different?
Mm-hmm.
I feel distracted. So
distracted by media?
By everything, yeah. Like, of course I'm Googling myself and reading all the reviews, and it's what I do, and I'm not writing, and it's very distracting. I hate it. I can't believe it's. Why did they make my movie? So
that sounds very difficult for you.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So, did you attend the premiere? What was that experience like?
It was cool. I mean, to go there, so it's to see people again, to see Saoirse and Eric and Joe and the producers and one of my good friends on the crew was the VFX supervisor, seeing him again. So it's just like a reunion, but with a lot of people taking your photo. And it was a very, very interesting experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we'll get to a lot more, we'll go into more detail with all of that stuff, sure. I think. In terms of, is it what you hoped it would be, and how different is the movie from what you maybe were expecting when you started writing it 6 years ago?
Okay, so the character is exactly the same, in my opinion, and the feeling and tone is exactly the same. Maybe different things have changed. We added new characters. There's maybe some of the plot stuff has changed, but ultimately that didn't matter. And what mattered was we were going for this kind of the in-between, like the transcendent truth, the thing that is beyond the text, right? We're working for the subtext, and I think that definitely came through. I think it's the movie's way ahead of the audience, and the audience has to keep up, and that was kind of our goal. And it was always my goal when I was writing it in the first place. So.
I have to say, I'm sure I'm not the only one who read some Hanna in some form those years ago, and I when I saw the film, I thought that, in essence, that is the same story that it has always been, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk a bit about the sort of the highs and lows of the process that you did go through, but that in and of itself just is a testament to the kind of the universality and the hook of this story that is this girl. Okay, so let's go back to not before, but maybe in the middle of your journey, sort of just becoming a writer. So you're at VFS, it's 2000, I believe, 5, or is it 6? 2005?
Don't ask me.
Anybody?
I just guess, whenever I say it's always 5 years. But
years go by.
6 or 7 now,
years go by.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the beginning of the story and talk about the genesis of this idea. I believe you have said that that the story, in some ways, that the spark of it was this image of a girl hunting deer in the woods, which, if most of you have seen the film, is exactly how we open Hanna.
Oh, yeah, those I would say of every those are actually literally the exact same pages almost. Like all that was very, very filmed directly from those pages I wrote here. So
which is
there you go. See, it's
completely wild. Yeah. So. Okay, I'm going to completely own something here. So Seth, in my class, turned in two outlines. That's the stage where you're turning in sort of these short outlines and trying to decide which project you're going to pursue and continue to flesh out. And Seth turned in Hanna and a teen sort of sex comedy. And in my wisdom, I would like to say that I said, "Don't write Hanna, write the sex comedy. What are you talking about?" So, I stand by that. I still think you shouldn't write Hanna. Don't do it. I would like to, in my defense, I would like to say that it was not because Hanna was not a good story. It was because I was really taken with the teen comedy. I thought it was a good story too. Yes. I don't know if you continue to develop that at all.
I say Hanna's my first script. That was my first script, and it ended up being like 60, 65 pages, and it's kind of this mutant child that I hide now. Nobody's allowed to see it. I ignore. It doesn't.
Okay. So so in the middle of your year here in the writing program, you started developing Hanna. So tell us a little bit more about the process while you were still a student, and how you were, who you were working with, and what happened as you kind of left the program and continued to develop it.
It's pretty vague, but like my strongest memories are when I started writing the script. There was the different levels. I'm sure if you guys have experienced this too, where it's like you start with the 5-page outline and you do the 25-page outline, and but when my strongest memories are when I started to actually write the pages, because I was working with the guy Rick Drew, and he was extremely supportive, and it was all about saying yes, like, oh yes, this is awesome, this is great, keep going, keep going, keep going. And it was never about saying no or how can this be better. It was always about supporting my vision, and I think that that's something that that VFS does really well, is that it supports, it's about saying yes, and especially when you start to work in Hollywood, it's all about saying no. You can't do this, and again, like 5 or 6 years later, and I get a phone call, and I'm going to meet with Joe, and Joe was all about saying yes. So it became this it's like a repeat, if you will, and it was about tapping into creativity, and that's kind of how I remember my initial writing of the script.
That's fantastic that you were pushed towards the openness and the find it, as opposed to, being sort of closed about it.
It was never about, okay, you need to do it this way, and this is how you will be successful. It's you find your own way, and maybe you will be successful. So
that's great.
Kind of cool.
Great. So you worked with Rick while you were here, and you worked with Brian Casilio as well.
Yeah, Brian was very integral, because I had her hunting with a gun, and he said, "Well, what do you think about a bow and arrow?" And there you go.
And the cool quote was upped by about
that's right,
1,000,
like 1,000. So
excellent. Let's talk about maybe the year after graduating. What did how did you take the script to completion and to the next level? What kind of support did you have to do that? Well,
Rick stayed on, man.
Okay.
We've been friends now for 6 or 7 years, and he reads everything I write. And it was like, what's so awesome about him is that he's all about saying yes. So it's kind of important to have someone in your life saying yes, because I think there's a lot of when you're doing your writing and you're editing yourself, there's a lot of no, right? And then there's obviously you get into an industry where there's a lot of fear, and people are kind of scared of creativity, and even though they love it too, which is kind of this weird. So they want you to be really creative, but they also want you not to be at all. They want you to remake something, or you know what I mean. So it was important to have him around once a week saying yes.
Nice.
And that's what happened. So I kept writing a couple pages a week, and once I got another 20 pages, I'd send it to him, and that was basically it. And what he would do, Hanna was the first draft. It just took me 6 months to write it. So I never even went he would say, okay, maybe you should cut this. This is too long of a sentence, and I'm like, okay. And then, but it was like it was very raw, in a good way, if that makes any sense. So it wasn't like it was like this perfect screenplay. It was like, this is what happened. It was the natural progression of 6 months of work, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then, did you immediately launch into a second draft, or?
No, I sent it out.
Okay. Again, don't do this, people. Okay, so this is, the sort of the nitty-gritty of what you we'll keep talking about craft, I think, as we go. But I think one of the things that's going to be interesting to a lot of people is to hear kind of the details of how you threw yourself at Hollywood. Knowing that this needed to be, I'm guessing you knew this needed to be a tentpole movie. This needed to be a big budget.
Well, actually, I didn't think it needed to be that way. There was actually a lot of debate, because it kind of walks this line of, like, it's having an identity crisis, and in Hollywood you don't want to have an identity crisis. You want it to be, this needs to be an action movie, and this needs to be an art house movie, and it was walking that line. And so when I got interest from Focus Features, they had a genre arm called Rogue, and there was this debate about putting Hanna through the genre arm of their of their studio because it didn't fit into their art house. So the big thing when they're talking about buying it or optioning it, and what they were saying was, well, maybe we'll option it and we'll make it through Rogue. And I said, no, we need to make it's an art house movie because it's just because there's it's an art house movie with action. It's not the other way around, or it's not just a pure action movie. That's a different movie. And so I was very passionate with them on the phone, I remember. Very nervous, and I would probably talking very similarly to how I'm talking now, and basically saying, no, don't do that. You want this to be a focus feature movie. And that's how it worked out. Yeah.
Cool. So that's great. So the version of Hanna that is straight up action would be very, very different.
Yep.
We'll get into that too, sure. I think, because I think there were times along the way that there were a lot of questions about how mainstream this needed to be and how accessible it needed to be and
Definitely.
how international. Okay, so just backing up briefly, what did you do? You had a script.
Mm-hmm.
How many query letters, emails did you write?
It's becoming like the fish was this big. I think like right now it's at 400. It might have been 200. It might have been 300. It might have been 400.
I've heard 400. So
okay, maybe it was 700. 1,000. I don't know.
400's a lot.
Yeah, and I just emailed everybody I could find on the internet, and I found these two guys. One was a direct-to-video producer, and he responded really well. He read the script. And he loved it, but he wanted to make it into a direct-to-video pulp action movie, and that's kind of his notes. And he said, go do that and come back to me. And I kind of ignored him. and then there was this management company, Circle of Confusion, and Kemper Donovan was working there, and he read my script off the slush pile and loved it. And after like 6 or 7 weeks of them debating if they should take me on or not, they took me on. So,
cool. So
yeah.
400, let's say.
Yeah.
2 responses.
2 responses, yeah.
Both very different directions.
Yes.
So did you literally query the studios, production companies,
Agents.
and management and agencies?
Yep, everyone.
Okay. So.
And I did get, I got responses, but they were like, please don't email us.
We don't like you.
Yeah, please stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing story. But a great, I say this all the time, but it's, it's a numbers game. It does seem like a great example of how, if you don't send it out, definitely no one's going to be interested in reading it. Yeah. So,
but it's why, so those two guys, why they responded, I think, was because they were genre-based companies. So Circle of Confusion reps the Wachowskis, and Simon Kinberg was the big name at the time, and so they're genre artists. They also rep a lot of comic books. So when I found them, it made a lot of sense. So okay, I'm doing a genre movie that's kind of twisted, and these people would support something like that. So sometimes some of these other choices, maybe if I was querying Drew Barrymore's company, maybe that's not exactly the right person.
Again, very different movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you, even though it was a really high number that you queried, there was method to that. That there was some reason why there was some kind of history that this company or agency had worked within that would make sense for Hanna. Okay.
Well, and Circle, and I still think they do, FYI, they still take queries. So a lot of people don't. So when I'm getting rejected, it's because these people don't do that, right?
Yeah.
They have to have references and all that stuff. But Circle does have an open door policy.
Okay, yeah. Circle of Confusion. Make a mental note.
FYI.
Cool. Okay, so you sign on with Circle of Confusion.
Yeah.
What happens next?
They said, okay, this script's not going to sell, but maybe we can get you work off of it. And so 3 months later, Focus called them and said, "Oh, we just read the script. This is great. Can we talk to him about this and the direction we want to go with it?" And that's basically what happened, because I didn't go to LA right away. I didn't go to LA until after it was optioned. And then when I did go to LA, I met with, because I was getting phone calls from all the big agencies at that point. As soon as you sell, then all of a sudden you get all this attention. And so when I went to LA, it was to get an agent, and I ended up signing with William Morris at the time, and now they're William Morris Endeavor. And then after that, it was just kind of doing the rewrite, and then by the end of the year, it was on the blacklist. So, and what happens is, so you sell it, you get an agent, and then everybody wants to, they offer you their writing assignments, which isn't offering you a job. It's not like they come to you and say, here's a script for you to write or rewrite. And it's more of like, here's a potential script for you to rewrite. We're also giving it to 20 other people. So let's all pitch and see who can do it best.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So, but once the door was open, it was wide open and...
Sort of, yeah. I mean, yes, but it's like, yes, it's not like, it's never been easy, if that makes sense, even now. It's basically, what's happening now is basically a repeat of what's happened with Blacklist, is that you get...
Are people familiar with the term Blacklist? I'm sure a lot of you are. If you're not... No. So the Blacklist is every year in Hollywood, the top agencies and studios are polled for, basically a lot of the development people are polled for their favorite as yet unproduced scripts that they read that year. So they may not have, had any connection to it other than it came across their desk and they read it. And so they're polled, and I think it's 100, isn't it? The list is 100.
I think it's 400 now, though.
Oh.
Or 700.
Okay. I see what you're doing. So this Blacklist is compiled every year from 1 to 100, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 100 to 1 of the top scripts that haven't been produced. So Hanna made that list. It's a huge coup to end up on that list, and a massive proportion of those scripts do end up if being produced, and then if not, it's because the people clearly went on to get huge writing gigs that based on the strength of that particular script. So
right.
Huge coup to be on the Blacklist. So you got calls just from being on it, I take it? Okay.
Yeah. And so the same thing's happening now, where it's you get put up for jobs, and but you're also being put up with other writers. It's a very evil business. But we're kind of all fighting for that golden ticket kind of thing.
Yeah. But to be at the table, you've got to. I mean, it's amazing to be at the table, is it not?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is.
It is, but it's. How can I put this? It is, but I still have to fight, and I still have to make sure I maintain my identity outside of that. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I started to lose really quickly the first time around, because I didn't understand that it was this kind of cannibalistic process, and I thought it was, oh yeah, I'm going to get a job. This is a job, then I would lose focus, and I wouldn't write my own scripts, and then I'd be focused on trying to bring something extremely out there to HeMan. I'd write the most coolest HeMan ever. And yeah, that would get me a certain extent, but it wouldn't get me the job, right? It'd get me to second place, and second place isn't very good in Hollywood. So then what would it force me to do? Let's focus on my own scripts and go back and write and do what I set out to do, which was to write cool screenplays.
Okay, so that's been a whole process for you, is having to kind of lose your way a little bit to be able to come back to it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, maybe there's lessons that we can learn.
Yeah, I definitely think you should lose your way. It's the best way to learn. You can't, you have to be open to having bad experiences. Mm-hmm. And not that it's been awful. I'm not saying that. I'm not. It's been wonderful, but you have to learn, and you have to know why you're doing this. Why do you want to do it just to get paid, or do you want to do it because you want to write cool scripts, or do you want to do it just to get a movie made? Because that's really, for 6 years, that wasn't my purpose. My purpose was to write the best screenplay possible, and if a movie got made, that's just cherry on top of the heroin, as I put it.
Okay, so can we talk a little bit about how you lost your way without being too barbed? But you look great.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's really bad.
Good for my waistline.
Yeah. So at times, was part of the difficulty the desire for certain people along the way to make this a more mainstream, more accessible? My understanding is there are drafts of the script that are much less international, that are much more sort of straight up the middle, and that in fact the great thing is, my understanding is that Joe Wright wanted to do the interesting version that is your version. So can you talk a little bit about that? Was it pressures that?
I think it lost its way in like, it was always international, and that was good. It's like, it was based on my backpacking trip, and they changed so mine was Turkey and Denmark. No, wait, it was Turkey. Yeah, my trip was Turkey to Denmark, and my script was Turkey to Sweden, and they changed it to Morocco to Finland by the end of it. But it was always international. But I think what happened is that they, instead of, I think sometimes people didn't understand what Hanna was as a character, and so they would try to, so they would think of her as a 14-year-old girl, or 15, 16-year-old girl, whatever she ended up being. They would think of her as a 14-year-old girl like any other 14-year-old girl, and so they wouldn't follow that logic. So they lost the path in that they were trying to make her more normal, because she was really weird, and I think she still is really weird, so that's really good that it stayed that way. But she was really weird, and people weren't necessarily in line with that, and so what ends up happening is that they wanted to make it more familiar for the audience, and so instead of it being this born fairy tale, it just was born. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So it was like this procedural. It just became more and more procedural, and not a piece of art.
Okay, and that as a character, she was too warm or too.
They thought she was too weird.
They wanted to bring it back into.
They wanted her to be more, not like Hannah Montana, but like they wanted her to be a little bit more less weird.
Sequel potential.
You know what I mean? Like they just wanted her to be normal with these cool aspects.
So very easy to sympathize with, as opposed to.
Very understand, but I think that, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, I don't know if you guys have seen that movie Eragon, but I was like, probably not, because it failed. And the reason why it failed, in my opinion, is because you have a very good-looking dude, and why do you, I don't want to watch a good-looking dude. I want to watch somebody who's freaking weird, and so I'd rather go see Harry Potter than go seeing Eragon, because that guy in Eragon beat the shit out of me when I was a kid, and the guy in Harry Potter, well, that's me. So
perfect. In terms of character empathy, yeah. Perfect description. Okay, so interested in knowing what the writer's process was like when you headed into production. Yeah. I understand there's rewrites in Berlin, and so let's talk a little bit about that.
It was extremely intense. It was because I just I got a phone call, and then a week later I was on a plane, and I was living in Berlin and they said only 3 weeks, and every 3 weeks it would be another 3 weeks, and it was like this very tense emotional journey, and but like I said, I kind of found a kindred spirit in Joe, because he was always open to creativity, to the extreme, and where we went completely nuts, and we went Isaac's was an on-set creation, so the crazy strip club owner / assassin /
terrifying,
right, and so and that came out of we wrote it in 2 weeks, and then and Tom Hollander came on set, and he brought this whole he just notched it up a little bit more, and he was always half in character, which was really scary, and he always talked with a German accent for sure, and that was really even more scary, but it was, how can I describe it? So I came back, it was the screenplay had become this patchwork of my original screenplay and some of the procedural elements of that were introduced in the interim. And what I needed to do is to give it a voice and a tone that hopefully was cohesive. So for the next 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks that I was there, it was pretty much 24 hours of work as 6 hours of sleep, 24 hours of work, 6 hours of sleep, and that's how it went. And then I'd go for a meeting with Joe, and we'd sit in his office until 2 in the morning. Then I'd go back to my apartment, sleep for 6 hours, get up, go have breakfast, and then we'd go and work. And it was endless. And then he'd get called away to go deal with costume or with the actors or something like that. And then I would stay in his apartment, and I'd just keep working. It was extremely
So
was
this is in
strange.
pre-production?
Yes.
Did it continue into production?
Yes, and it would,
Okay.
what happened was is that, so some actors would come at different times, and so there'd be major lulls. So when we went to production, they went to Finland. I stayed in Berlin because they didn't want me to be in Finland, which was really disappointing. I stayed in Berlin, and it was really like quiet, and so I got to kind of like rest. I joined a gym. I got healthy again because I lost 20 pounds when I was doing my crazy, endless writing sessions, and so everything calmed down. And then like 3 weeks later, Kate comes, and then when Kate comes, then it's like, so you go and sit with her, and we worked all weekend with her on her character, and then they brought in the CIA consultant person, and we had to work with her, and then all of a sudden it's like 24 hours, 3 hours sleep, 24 hours, 3 hours sleep, and then it would slow down again, and it would happen all the time. And Joe was very much about writing at the moment. Like, even though we maybe had things, we talked about things, it would be like, we're going to shoot it in about 2 days, let's rewrite it. And which was very new for him too, supposedly. So he likes to have his scripts solid, and it was a very new thing for him to do, to keep working with me on it throughout the whole period. So
that's wild, and it sounds very surreal.
It was very
and
intense.
Stressful.
Yes, it was, and then it wasn't. It's like it was kind of amazing about it. It was so intense, and then it was really quiet, and I got to hang out on set, and me and Saoirse's mom became really good friends. She'd feed me gummy bears, and I got to know everyone on all the crew, and that was even more intense. So there was kind of like this, being with Joe, it kind of felt, okay, I can go off on my own and be a writer, and I can still isolate myself. And then being with the crew, and then seeing them use their creative talents to interpret and manipulate everything, it kind of blew my mind in a good way.
Amazing. You don't always get invited to set, so fantastic that you were actually part of that whole process.
Very good learning experience.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm just before turning it over to the crowd, I thought it would be nice to hear what's going on right now. What are you working on? You've got a couple of scripts in development right now? I think that.
Yeah, I do.
Something's going on.
Yeah, stuff is going on.
So, projects that originated with you, or they? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're managing to still focus on the stuff that's coming.
It's a survival technique, and unless I move to Los Angeles, which is a possibility, I don't think I'll necessarily get work outside of generating my own material.
And so, right now, is that a choice you are consciously making to stay in Vancouver? Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, right now would, it seems, be the time, if
to
not
go?
before now,
Yeah, no,
if not before now, to
I'm
go.
definitely debating it, and I'm debating going in the fall. But prior to this, I mean, my choice was to stay, and my choice to stay was, I said this to Sean earlier, that I chose to stay because that Hanna was my first screenplay, and so I really wanted to get another job, but then I was like, there's like this huge fear, like, okay, I'm gonna get a job maybe, and I'm gonna write the shit out of something, but maybe I'll fail. And so there was kind of that failure thing going on. And what I wanted to do was, and what became a necessity was, I need to keep learning how to write. So I kept writing screenplays. I wanted to know why I was doing it. I didn't want to do it just for a paycheck. It was never that way for me, ever. And I wanted to find satisfaction in writing the screenplays. And I wanted to make sure that where my priorities were. And that's why I stayed in Vancouver, because I feel like I could have gotten caught up in something I couldn't control. Maybe, maybe not. And I don't know that. That's the choice I made, and this is where I've ended up.
It sounds like a very wise choice. It sounds like a wise choice many people would not make.
Too, by the way, it's in hindsight. That's not how I felt when I was going through it. But it can be very.
This is the spin you have put on.
Right, exactly.
It's a good spin.
Exactly.
It's a good spin.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're going to continue to talk, but best of luck to you, whether you stay here or go south. And I think, I speak for a lot of us when I say I can't wait to see what the next project will be.
Me too.
I'm sure it will be completely different, which is what's really exciting. Yeah. Another identity crisis film would be great.
Yep.
That would be my vote, for sure. So thanks, Seth.
Yeah.
So let me see. What are your questions? We do have a couple of mics we're going to pass around so that we can so that Seth can hear what you're going to ask.
Hi, Seth. Again, congratulations.
Thanks very much.
It's such a great achievement, and well, you've been told so, but well, I want to tell you again, and for sure it's a very stimulating example for all of us who are studying script writing. I wanted to ask you, what changed from the script after it got auctioned and the whole process started? And I mean, I guess half of us have seen the film, so I guess we can talk about that, and if not, well, it'll still be interesting. And if you think you lost something in that process, or was it something very important that you think that didn't go through?
I don't think I lost anything. Like, I might have lost scenes, or we might have lost elements. And I don't know, like, my opinion of the screenplay that I came back to rewrite, something had been lost, like they kind of lost the trajectory of what the character was doing, but, you know, we brought that back. So it's, even if the specifics changed, I didn't lose anything from the original screenplay, because what I was going for in the original screenplay was not, I wasn't trying to, you know, build it out of stone. I was trying to create an interpretation. So, like, I was trying to create these images and these scenarios for you to interpret as the audience. And so, and because of that, it becomes much more malleable, if you will, just as long as you can keep the soul, right? I know that's kind of strange to say, but.
Hi. I was wondering, you sold the script, say, 2006? A year after you graduated from VFS?
Yes.
So what'd you do in the meantime? Like, as for work, did you just have like a day job?
Yep.
Or okay.
I worked at, I was a blackjack dealer.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So you just held a day job and
It was a night job.
A night job.
Yeah.
Okay. You had a night job.
Yeah.
And you just, when you were finished with the first draft of the script, which
And
wasn't...
I finished the first draft of the script, and I stopped writing. And I didn't start writing again until I sold the script, or until Circle of Confusion got interested.
And you haven't had like a writing style job?
Oh, actually, I wrote for VFS for a little bit. I wrote the blogs for VFS for a long time.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was okay.
Cool. Is anybody a blackjack dealer in the room?
Hello.
Hello.
I assume that you are very pleased with the final product.
I am.
But if there was one thing about it that you could change or that you see as a disappointment, what might that be?
Soundtrack. Really? No, I'm just joking. No. No, I really love it. It's very, like... Yeah. No, there's nothing. I mean, it was a very cool experience, because I have a very peculiar philosophy. I believe the director is the ultimate reader when he's making a film. And so I did my job a long time ago. And so I can't say there's anything missing, because it feels the way I want it to feel. It maintains her character in the way I wanted it to be maintained. So I like everything that was added, right? I like all the character choices. Tom's yelling out the window, "Run, little piggy." I love that. He just ad-libbed that. He just started yelling, okay? And so it's like, I love all that, because it was filling in the subtext, but still maintaining the subtext. And I can't be upset with that. Does that make sense? Absolutely. All right, dude.
You alluded to this, and I'm not sure if you've actually started.
Did you teach me?
Yeah.
I recognize you doing it. Yes. In my Freudian class.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Because I was down in Hollywood a long time ago, and things have changed a lot, and
Yeah.
it feels a lot more exploitive to me as you speak about it.
Yes.
So let's hear more about that. You're in some pool
Yeah.
to be considered as a writer. You have an agent who I assume is going to be protective of you.
Yep. Okay.
And how does that work? Do you do a treatment? Do you get any money? How do they choose you? How much work do they get out of you for nothing?
Lots. Yeah. So it's very. I mean, sometimes, man, I do 3 or 4 months work, and it would be. I don't. The way I did it, because I'm scared of pitching. I wouldn't pitch verbally. I would write treatments, and that was my choice, and that would get me so far, and then they would just end up choosing Stuart Beattie or something like that, some A-list screenwriter that I was competing with. So they go the safe route, and I was untested. It would be interesting to see now that there's a movie made and that they can go, oh, here's a trailer of this guy's work. It's not just the script, right? It's not, okay, the script is kind of an unknown. Like, they don't know if I could write a movie. I could write a really good script. Can I write a movie? And I think that might help me, but we'll see. I think it's all an uphill battle.
So, like, right from pitching it in class to right this very moment, aside from selling it, what was the most exciting part? Like opening night or Eric Bana getting attached? He's a good-looking guy. I don't care.
Yeah. What was the most exciting? I mean, there was a lot of exciting things that happened in between. So, what's most exciting? I think getting that phone call, getting on a plane a week later, that was pretty intense. So it's like, I anticipated it, which is kind of egotistical, but I was like, okay, yeah, they're gonna call me back. They're making the movie. I heard they're making the movie. They got all these actors on it. They're calling me back. And then when I got that phone call, that was kind of cool, because it's like, yeah, I knew it was gonna happen, but I didn't at all.
I'm interested in the sort of the balance that you're striking between sort of confidence in your ability to do the work, and sort of your self-deprecating, sort of self-deprecating nature, which I think a lot of us are very familiar with and can completely relate to. But do you find that's do you find you have to push yourself to find that confidence, especially to sort of work in the Hollywood environment, or do you find you need to?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I write something, I have no confidence in it, and I think I have to have people like Rick or Casey say, yeah, it's good. and same thing with the movie, sort of. Although, no, that's not true with the movie. The movie, I knew it was good. And I don't feel when I watch it with other people, like a lot of people say they feel self-conscious when they're watching their work, and it's like, I don't feel self-conscious at all. It's like, it's very, this has given me a lot of confidence. It's like, oh, okay, it turned out pretty good. Wow, wow, that my words actually kind of work there. That kind of works. So
great. I think that must be how it works. You just build on that.
Yeah.
That feeling. And okay.
We'll see how it goes.
All right. Just don't let it get out of control.
Well, it might. It's starting.
Okay. I think somebody's got. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations for staying true to your vision and taking it this far. My question is in regards to the emails. Yep. Were you just sending out a mass email, or did you cater it to the production companies and what have you that you were sending it out to?
That's a really big question.
What format did you use? Was it PDF or Final Draft or just an RTF?
It was for the script. I only sent out the script when they requested it, so it's not like I was mass emailing my script out there. And then I tested different query letters, but the one that succeeded the best was a one-line synopsis and a question: do you want to read my script? So
literally, like.
Yeah.
Almost nothing else, and nothing else.
Yeah, actually, the one that they keep pitching.
Very interesting.
14-year-old girl is raised to be an assassin. Would you like to read my script?
Wow, that's very interesting. So the power of the idea, that's what that is, because they clearly were not concerned about here's my pedigree.
Yeah, and this is these are the thematic undertones, and these are. No,
so you didn't blah 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 them. You just said.
No.
Here's what it is.
Try to keep things simple.
Very interesting. We back here in the corner?
Hey, Seth. I'm Jacob, the community liaison here for VFS.
Where are we?
Over here. Hey.
Hey, dude. What's up?
So I've got a couple questions from our online community for you.
Awesome.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
The first one comes from Twitter, and someone would like to know if you always had the kind of cold forest landscape in Finland as a location when you're kind of writing and planning out how you wanted it to look.
I did, but not in Finland specifically, right? It was Sweden.
Right.
Yeah.
And the second question I have for you here from Facebook, I believe it comes from someone named Jared Siemens. His question is, did you always kind of envision it with the beginning and ending that it has? I know you've already kind of talked about the beginning, but did you always envision it with the ending, or is that something that came over time and workshopping with Joe Wright?
No, that ending, I mean, it's in a strange way, it's very similar to the ending of my original script, even if the context is slightly different. I don't know if I should tell you guys about the original.
Yeah.
The context of the original script. Well, no, I'm not going to tell you. But no, it's you know, if you're looking at just very simple plotting, I Just Missed Your Heart was in the original. That was the first line in the original script, and I didn't end it with I Just Missed Your Heart. I think that was Joe's idea, but I did end it with Marissa being killed. Oh, did I ruin the movie for you guys? Oh, who hadn't seen it? I'm sorry. She does die. Oh, I did it again? I'm sorry, dude. She lives. I'm done. Oh, dude.
Just a few more here.
Okay.
Did you always have the fairy tale evil stepmother themes right at the beginning, or was that something that developed later on as you were working on it?
Okay, no. Not as literal as it became, but I did structure it like a fairy tale. So it wasn't, and you know, I had references to Grimm's, but it didn't become as literal as Joe and Sarah Greenwood, the production designer, the way that they made it and they designed it. So it was a fairy tale. It's not a riff on a fairy tale. It was a fairy tale. So yes and no. Good answer. Yeah, I like that answer.
How the idea originated in your head? Originally, at like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, the first time. It started with this image of a little girl running through trees and hunting a deer, and it organically grew from there. That's how I wrote the screenplay. That's how I wrote my treatments and my outlines. Is that I wrote them very intuitively, and I was never beholden to anything that came before. So it's when I wrote an outline, it never stayed that way as I developed the screenplay. So if it didn't feel right when I was writing the screenplay, well, then it was gone. So does that make sense? Did I answer your question? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And why Hanna?
Why Hanna, the title? It was a placeholder. It was the main character's name, and I put it.
No, why is the main character named Hanna?
Oh, because I think I just was like looking up what would be a good Nordic name or something like that, and Hanna and Eric was some good Nordic names, very simple names. Yes.
So you is looking at yourself 7 years ago, right here.
Yes.
What advice would you give these guys?
Make sure you're writing for the right reasons. Make sure that what is your ultimate goal? Do you want to direct movies? Well, maybe you shouldn't be writing them. Do you want to, what do you want? Do you want to write really good scripts? Well, then that's maybe what you should be doing, and then that's how you should focus and build your career on. Or do you want to, you can do other things, but why not write a really good script, right? Okay.
Just quickly, some of your influences.
Some of my influences. Jenica. I think you did actually introduce me to Scott McCloud. Did you?
Yes, I think that's right.
Okay, so Scott McCloud was really influential to me because he made me look at writing. He's a comic book artist, and he talked about the in-between panels. And in-between panels is really interesting to me. That's because it's the way, words are, there's spaces between words. And that's kind of what I always want to go for when I'm writing, is I want to go for the space between words. And so Scott McCloud's pretty influential. Raymond Carver is really influential. Kurt Vonnegut is really influential. Aaron Sorkin now, because I've been reading Aaron Sorkin, a lot of Aaron Sorkin. He's pretty cool. And filmmakers. I mean, Werner Herzog's pretty cool. Who else? You name it. Quentin Tarantino, pretty cool guy. I like that guy.
All right.
Yeah, I could keep going. Do you want me to keep going? Yeah?
I think we've got two last questions at the back here, and then we can see.
Hi. Did you work on the HeMan script because you're a HeMan fan?
I definitely pursued it heavily because I used to play with HeMan when I was a kid, and I'd make my HeMan toys. I'd make them do things from Mad Max. So, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna turn HeMan into Mad Max. So that was my take on it. But yeah, definitely heavily pursued it because it was something from my childhood.
Cool.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
You said you still spend a lot of your time just at home writing. Could you describe some of your daily habits in terms of how you approach?
I sit around in my underwear. I think I don't know, surf the internet, and then all of a sudden I'll write. That's about it. It's not. There's nothing like. I don't have any like rituals or anything like that. I don't even have a space in my flat. It's an open area. I write wherever I'm sitting. I'll go down to the local coffee shop and I'll write there. And I guess one thing that I do is I listen to music, so really loudly, and tap into the ether.
Do you have a number of hours you try and put in a day, or?
Depends. Like so, like I guess that's something I haven't talked about. Is so the screenplays that I did sell, and that's why I only have I have three screenplays set up, but I've worked on them continuously. So I'd write the spec, and then obviously the collaboration would start as soon as we sold it. So then you're working with producers and executives, and you're working to get the screenplay to where it needs to be, and trying to balance the what the squares want and what the artists want, and I spent a lot of time doing that. So if I have a deadline, usually 10 weeks is about the deadlines, and then yes, I work. I try to get. I think it's page count more than hours. But if I'm writing for myself, depends. I mean, when I start a screenplay, it's like 2 hours a day maybe, and then by the end of the screenplay, it's like 12 hours a day.
I know we're just wrapping up, but you have a couple of screenplays that where you're moving forward. You have been a little vague about those. My question is, Michael Bay? Tell me.
No, it's happening.
Michael Bay's attached?
No, he's producing.
Michael Bay is producing one of your features. Excellent.
Yes.
Can you tell us, are they?
There's like a very vast difference, right? Joe Wright.
Just
Michael
a little.
Bay. Yeah.
Just a little. Yeah.
So this is how people interpret my writing. So one person can be Art House and one can be Michael Bay.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us, Seth.
Thank you for
having me.